Let me ask you a question that sounds simple, but has quietly ruined more lives than market crashes, layoffs, and recessions combined. Why do people who work the hardest often remain broke while others seem to make money even while they're sleeping? For decades, we were told a comforting lie. Study hard, get a stable job. Stick to one career, and everything will be fine. That idea shaped our schools, our parents, our governments, and our entire financial system. But here's the disturbing mystery. If that formula actually worked, why did millions of loyal employees lose everything overnight during every single major economic shock? Why did the same people who did everything right end up standing in unemployment lines, while a small group quietly multiplied their wealth? This video is not about hustle culture. It's not about fake gurus, and it's definitely not about getting rich quick. This is about how money actually flows and why relying on a single income source has become one of the most dangerous financial decisions of the modern world. By the end of this video, you'll understand where the idea of multiple income streams really came from. You'll see why it always rises during crisis, not prosperity. You'll learn why most people fail when they try it, and how the same patterns repeat across history, from ancient empires to today's digital economy. But first, we need to go back to a time when having only one income stream was not just normal, it was enforced. To understand why multiple income streams matters so much today, we first need to understand why they disappeared in the first place. Because for most of human history, people never relied on a single source of income. Farmers didn't just grow one crop. Merchants didn't sell just one product. Families didn't depend on just one earner. Diversification was survival. So what changed? The industrial shift. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the world entered the Industrial Revolution. Factories replaced farms. Machines replaced manual skill. Cities replaced villages. And with that massive shift came a new, seductive promise. Give us your time, and we'll give you stability. For the first time in history, millions of people traded diverse, self-managed income for predictable wages. One job, one paycheck, one employer. At first, it seemed to work beautifully. Wages were steady. Life felt secure. And entire governments built systems around this new model. Pensions, employment benefits, fixed career paths, and standardized retirement ages. The message was loud and clear. One income is safe. Multiple incomes are risky. But buried deep inside this system was a critical flaw, one that wouldn't fully reveal itself for decades. The entire single income model rests on one fragile assumption: that the system will always protect you. It assumes that companies will remain loyal, that economies will remain stable, that your skills will remain relevant, and that your job will always be available. History, however, tells a very different story. The first major global warning sign came with the Great Depression in 1929. Seemingly overnight, banks collapsed, companies shut down, and millions upon millions of people lost their jobs. Those who depended entirely on that one income lost everything at once. Their security vanished. Not because they were lazy or unskilled, but because the system they trusted had failed them completely. And this wasn't the last time it would happen. It was just the beginning. Stick around, because what happened next is the key to understanding your own financial future. Ever wonder who survived the big economic shakeups of the past? It wasn't always the people with the highest paying jobs. It was the small business owners, the people with side trades, and the families where everyone had a different skill. They understood something fundamental about survival. But instead of learning this lesson, society doubled down on a completely different system. After World War II, the world entered what many call the Golden Age. For many countries, growth was explosive. Jobs were everywhere. Wages went up and the middle class expanded like never before. This created a very dangerous illusion. The idea that the system was finally fixed. Suddenly, a single income could buy a house, support a whole family, and even fund retirement. An entire generation was raised to believe this. They were taught that having a side income meant you were unstable. Needing multiple incomes was a sign of desperation, and that absolute loyalty to one company was the only path to real security. This belief was passed down from parents to children, reinforced in schools, and, of course, championed by the corporations that benefited from it. It became our financial DNA. But while everything on the surface looked calm and prosperous, the world was quietly, radically changing underneath. Here's what most people missed. While individual jobs seemed stable, the systems supporting them were becoming incredibly fragile. Corporations started to optimize for one thing above all else: short-term profit. This led to relentless cost-cutting, automation, and outsourcing. Technology poured gasoline on this fire, accelerating everything. A single new innovation could suddenly wipe out entire departments, make whole professions obsolete, and erase decades of hard-won expertise overnight. The risk didn't just disappear, it was being moved and concentrated. Think of it like building a skyscraper on a single, massive pillar instead of a wide foundation. And when risk concentrates like that, failure isn't just a possibility, it's a catastrophe waiting to happen. This pressure kept building silently, year after year, until one major event made this fundamental flaw impossible to ignore. An event that proved, without any room for debate, that a single income stream isn't safety, it's dependency. But before we get to that breaking point, we need to understand something even more crucial. Why do so many people fail when they finally try to build multiple income streams? The problem isn't a lack of effort. It's a deep misunderstanding of how income actually works. And that misunderstanding has been exploited over and over again. For most of human history, having multiple ways to make a living was completely normal. The idea of relying on just one job from one employer is a surprisingly modern invention, and it was sold to us as a safe bet. But as the systems changed, that safety net became a tightrope. What once felt stable slowly became fragile. So now we have to ask the dangerous question. If multiple income streams are so powerful, why do most people burn out and fail when they try to build them? The answer isn't about being lazy, or not being smart enough, or even a lack of opportunity. It's about a hidden misunderstanding that quietly turns all your hard work into pure exhaustion. The phrase, multiple income streams, didn't just pop up on social media. It actually came from the world of serious investors. Long before YouTube gurus and online courses, the wealthiest people already understood a golden rule that was never taught in our schools. Income behaves differently depending on where it comes from. Back in the mid-20th century, financial thinkers started categorizing income into very distinct types. Earned income from a job, profit income from a business, interest income from lending, rental income from property, and royalty income from creative work. This wasn't some motivational theory to get you to work harder. This was pure risk management. The logic was simple and powerful. If one of your income streams dries up, the others keep flowing, protecting you from disaster. But here is the critical twist that most people still miss today. The goal was never to work more hours. The ultimate goal was to separate your time from your money. That's the secret we'll unpack next. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Have you ever heard that you need multiple income streams to be financially secure? It's one of the most repeated pieces of advice out there. But what if I told you that most people are doing it completely wrong, and that this misunderstanding is actually leading them straight into burnout, not financial freedom? There's a critical distinction that almost nobody talks about, and understanding it changes everything. Let's break down the original idea. A traditional, single-income life is simple. You trade your time for money from one single source, usually a job. The fatal flaw is obvious. If you stop trading your time, whether due to illness, a layoff, or anything else, the money stops. The concept of multiple income systems was created to break this direct link. It wasn't about magic or luck. It was about building a different structure for your financial life. But then, decades later, This idea hit the mainstream, especially with the rise of the internet, and it got completely twisted. Suddenly, everyone was talking about side hustles, passive income, and financial freedom. But look closer at what's actually being promoted. Most people aren't building multiple income streams. They're just collecting multiple jobs. Think about it. Someone works a 9 to 5, then drives for a delivery service in the evening, does freelance projects on the weekend, and maybe picks up some other late-night gigs. That's not diversification. That's just burnout spread across different employers. You're still trading time for money in every single one of them. It's the same old problem. Boosting a new, more exhausting package. The system didn't fail these people. They were given the wrong definition from the very beginning. And here is the hidden divide. The part that truly changes the game. Income streams fall into two completely different categories. Labor-dependent and system-dependent. Labor-dependent income stops when you stop working. It scales very slowly because you only have so many hours in a day, and it breaks easily under pressure. If you get sick, you can't do any of your streams. System-dependent income, on the other hand, is designed to continue running without your constant, direct involvement. It can scale much faster because it's not tied to your personal time, and it's more resilient. It can absorb shocks. Throughout history, real wealth has almost always been built on the system side, not the labor side. This brings us to a really uncomfortable truth about how the modern world works. The first major stress tests for this idea came in the late 1990s. Technology was accelerating, markets were getting frothy, and jobs felt incredibly secure right up until they weren't. The dot-com bust arrived, and entire career paths vanished almost overnight, faster than anyone could adapt. What happened next was telling. People with just one income source often collapsed financially. Those with two similar labor-dependent incomes, like two jobs, just delayed the collapse. But the ones who had built diverse, system-dependent income streams, many of them survived, and some even thrived through the chaos. This wasn't a theory anymore. It was hard evidence. But instead of learning the right lesson, the difference between systems and jobs, most people walked straight into the next trap. This reveals a pattern that repeats itself over and over, decade after decade. First, the system appears to offer stability, like a certain type of job or industry. People then overcommit to it, concentrating all their risk in one place. Then, an unexpected shock hits the economy. The people who had diversified with actual systems survive. The lesson is briefly learned, then quickly forgotten, and the cycle starts all over again. The names change, the technology changes, but the outcome is always the same. And every time it happens, a new group of people is left saying, "I never thought this could happen to me." This brings us to the most dangerous misconception of all. Most people believe you build multiple income streams by addition, by just stacking more and more work on top of your existing job. But in reality, true financial resilience is built by replacement. You don't just randomly add more gigs. You strategically and deliberately transition from labor-dependent income to system-dependent income over time. It's about building an asset that works for you, so you don't have to. Of course, this approach requires patience. It requires thinking in long timelines, and it often involves temporary discomfort as you learn and build something new without an immediate payoff. It's not the quick, easy path the side hustle gurus promise, but it is the only path that breaks the cycle of trading time for money and leads to genuine, lasting security. The question isn't whether you need multiple streams of income. The question is, are you building more jobs for yourself? Or are you building systems that will one day set you free? Thanks for watching. If this idea resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges the way we think about work and wealth. See you in the next one. Have you ever started something new, full of excitement, only to quit a few weeks later because you saw zero results? A new side project, a YouTube channel, maybe a small online store. If so, you're not alone. And the reason you quit is exactly why most people never build real financial security. They expect results before their systems have time to mature. But here's the secret. Systems don't pay you immediately. They compound quietly in the background. Every successful income stream goes through what I call the silent phase. This is the part nobody talks about. It's a period that looks and feels exactly like failure. You get low returns, no validation from others, and definitely no applause. This phase is a filter. It's designed to weed people out. Not because the idea is bad, but because the results always lag far behind the effort you put in. Those who quit during this phase call it a scam. Those who push through long enough to see the other side, they call it leverage. Think about it like this. By the time the next major economic shock arrived, the divide between people was already set in stone. On one side, you had people with one fragile income stream, no real control over their financial destiny, and zero buffer for emergencies. On the other side, you had people with multiple streams of income, ownership of their assets, and the freedom to choose. What happened next exposed everything, not just about money, but about the very structure of modern life. Every financial idea sounds smart in a PowerPoint presentation. But the real test comes when it faces a real-world shock. And for our modern economy, that shock didn't just come once. It came again and again. Let's rewind to the late 1990s. The dot-com collapse. Technology promised endless growth. Jobs felt futuristic and secure. People were trading their savings for stock options. And then, the bubble burst. Entire companies vanished overnight. Careers built around so-called safe tech jobs just evaporated. People who had tied their entire financial life to a single salary in one sector lost everything, all at once. But who survived best? It wasn't about luck. It was about structure. The survivors were the consultants with diverse clients, the investors with mixed assets, and the entrepreneurs who had built more than one source of revenue. But somehow, that powerful lesson didn't stick for most people. Fast forward to 2008. This time, the entire system cracked. Banks faded, the housing market collapsed, and governments were in full-on panic mode. And something truly shocking happened. People with good jobs, doctors, engineers, managers were suddenly helpless. They were all dependent on one single pipeline of money. When that pipeline froze, so did their lives. Meanwhile, a smaller group managed to stay afloat. Who were they? Rental property owners with steady cash flow, business owners with a wide range of customers, and investors with diversified income streams. Notice a pattern here. Having multiple income streams didn't just make these people rich, it made them resilient. It made them antiphragal. Then came the moment no one could ignore. 2020. A global shutdown. It was sudden. It was total. Offices closed, supply chains broke, and millions lost their income instantly. This time, the pattern was undeniable. Those who depended on one employer, one physical location, or one system felt the full, brutal impact immediately. But those who had built other things, those with digital income from online businesses, those with asset-based income from investments, those with diverse revenue from multiple projects, they absorbed the shock. Some of them even grew stronger. This isn't about hustle culture or working yourself to the bone. This is about understanding the physics of the modern economy. It's about building a structure for your life that can withstand the inevitable storms. The silent phase is hard, but it's the price of admission for a life of security and freedom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Economic shocks don't announce themselves. They just arrive. And after each crisis, whether it was the dot-com bust, the 2008 financial meltdown, or the global pandemic, people all reacted in the same way. They desperately searched for faster income, not better systems. This is exactly why side hustles exploded in popularity. It's why passive income became one of the biggest buzzwords online. It's why the internet was flooded with courses promising financial freedom. But here's the problem. Instead of solving the core issue, most of these solutions just recreated it. It was the same old dependency, just on a different platform. The first failed fix was simply more work. People tried to outwork fragility. They took on more hours, more gigs, and a whole lot more stress. But you can't fix a fragile system with sheer effort. Fragility isn't fixed by effort. It's fixed by design. The second failed fix was trend chasing. Others jumped from one hot thing to the next. From crypto to NFTs, from dropshipping to affiliate marketing. They moved from app to app, platform to platform, without understanding one fundamental truth. An income stream is not a tactic. It's a system that can survive without you constantly having to rescue it. And the third failed fix was the myth of passive income. Let's be honest. True passive income is incredibly rare, and it's always slow to build. What most people were sold instead was just delayed labor, front-loaded effort, or hidden risk. When the promised returns never materialize, people blame themselves. But the real problem wasn't their effort. It was the fundamental misalignment of the model they were sold. Now, fast forward to today. The world looks different, but the underlying structure is identical. AI is threatening jobs, automation is accelerating, and powerful platforms control who gets access and who doesn't. The same haunting question returns. What would happen if your primary income disappeared tomorrow? History has already given us the answer. So let's finally say it clearly. The real purpose of having multiple income streams isn't about greed. It's not about living a life of luxury or quitting your job to travel the world. It's about reducing your single point of failure. It's about increasing your control over your own life. It's about buying yourself time to think, to breathe, to make decisions without being backed into a corner. Multiple income streams give you options. And in today's world, options are the real currency of freedom. Let's distill this down to 3 clear takeaways. First, 1. Income is not stability. It's concentration risk. The world doesn't punish your effort. It punishes your dependency on a single source. Second, more income streams should not equal more work. If every new stream requires your constant attention, you haven't diversified your income. You've just multiplied your stress. The goal is to build systems, not just fill up your schedule. And third, the transition is always uncomfortable. There is no version of this journey where results come instantly, where fear just disappears, or where you get validation early on. Every truly resilient system looks completely pointless right before it becomes powerful. So, here's the question that no one can answer for you. If your main income stopped today, how long would your life stay the same? Not just survive, not panic, but truly stay the same. Because history is clear. Economic shocks don't send a warning. They just repeat patterns. The only variable is who is prepared. This video wasn't meant to motivate you with hype. It was meant to inform your decisions. If this changed how you think about money, I encourage you to reflect before you react. Build before you quit. And learn before you copy someone else's strategy. And if you appreciate these kinds of deep, documentary-style breakdowns, not hype, just real understanding, then consider subscribing. Share this with someone who still believes that one income stream equals safety. And comment system below if you want a future video on how to build income streams the right way. Because the real advantage isn't just having more money. It's knowing how the game actually works.